This video is all about how to make the McRib. You have to be living under a rock to not notice all the commercials for the limited edition run of the McRib that McDonald's is doing. And so as a barbecue enthusiast, I needed to make my own version of the McRib using the Mike D's Barbecue award-winning products and real rib meat. The first step in the process is to prepare the baby back ribs that we're using for this. So we've already taken the membrane off the back of the ribs. And now what we're going to do is to help prep this for being able to be deboned later without overcooking the ribs. So we're going to start by scoring along each side of the bone. So you want to get a sharp knife and kind of just run down along each side of the bone, and make sure to pay attention to the line of the bone. Sometimes the bones are curved, so you want to just make sure that you're going right along the edge of the bone, and score into it a little bit, just to make sure that later on in the process we're going to be able to easily pull these bones out without making it to where the ribs just falling apart. And once you do that, we're going to move on to the seasoning of the ribs. Now, if you've seen any of my videos, you know that I season both sides of the meat, bone side and meat side. And so we're using here our Mike D's Barbecue all-purpose rub, which is our mild rub, world champion, by the way. And we're using that, and we'll get a good rub down on the bone side and then flip it over and start to get it on the meat side as well. You want to make sure you get a nice coating. Rub adds good flavor to ribs. You want to get a nice coating on there. And then once you get a nice coating on there, you want to make sure you just set it aside and let it sit, so that way it starts to seep in. So here you see the ribs fresh after we just finished applying the rub. And then now after it's been sitting for 25 minutes and letting it seep in. And then we can move it to the smoker. And we've got our pellet smoker going at 250 degrees. We're going to leave it in the pan for this cook. Ribs looking nice and pretty in the smoker, ready to get going. They've now been in for 1 hour, and we're going to come back and spritz it with our mixture of whiskey, apple juice, and apple cider vinegar. We do this on the hour to keep moisture in the meat and make sure that it stays full of flavor. It's now 2 hours, and we're coming back again for our second spritz. Whether doing the McRib or not in the pan or on the racks, you want to make sure you come in every hour and spritz your ribs with whatever mixture you choose to use. All right, so now we're going to plan for the next stage after a full 2 hours of cooking. So right before we hit the 3 hour mark, we pull them off, we lay our foil out, and we spritz down the bottom with our mixture. Again, keeping that in on the steps. We're going to take the racks out. We're going to put them on here, and we're going to first add a layer of honey. So we used a vanilla infused honey for this because we want to maximize the sweetness for the McRib. And so we use this as Cloisters honey out of Charlotte, North Carolina. It's one of my favorite brands of honey and what we use at my house. And we actually carry this in our store as well. So we're going to put a nice drizzle of honey across the rib rack, and then we're going to follow that up with some brown sugar. We use light brown sugar. You can use light brown or dark brown. It's up to you. But we wanted to continue. The secret to McRibs is the sweetness. That's what pulls people back over and over again. And so we want to make sure this is real sweet. So the vanilla infused honey with the brown sugar on top of that. And then we're going to wrap this back up to go back on the smoker. But you don't want to wrap it too tight. You want it to leave some air in there. And so you'll see as we start to wrap that we're going to kind of roll the foil to the top, leaving a gap. And then we'll take some of the mixture that we have and we'll pour it in with the rib as well. So we already spritzed the bottom of the foil, and now we're just going to pour some extra liquid in there. Again, just trying to maximize moisture in there, keep it from drying out. And the added moisture is also going to help, add a little steam in there, which will help some of the meat pull back from the bone, which added to the scoring we did earlier will make it easier to pull the rib bones off. Got both racks wrapped up and done and back on the smoker. So these have now been on for an additional hour and a half, and you can see the meat is starting to pull back on the bone. And so now it's easy for us to start to pull those bones right out. And look how easy these bones are just pulling out. Now these ribs aren't falling apart, they're not overdone, but because we scored them and then add the extra moisture in the foil, it makes it easy to pull those bones out nice and clean. Now we're gonna make the sauce. So we're using in our big sauce, which is the milder of our two sauces. The sauce already has honey in it as part of its sweetener, but we're trying to go for extra sweet here because that's what makes the McRib so appealing to people. So after we add the sauce, we're going to add some more of that vanilla infused honey from Cloister's Honey. We're going to just add that into the pan with the honey, with the barbecue sauce, excuse me. And then we're going to come behind that and add a lot more brown sugar to the pan. And then once that's all in there, we're going to mix it all together and make sure that it's all the flavors are combined to make a nice extra sweet barbecue sauce. Now that the sauce is finished, we're going to take the ribs and we're going to set them inside the sauce. So we'll just get them slid in there. What would have been the bone side is going to go down. We kept the meat side still up. And we'll just get those back in the sauce because we're going to end up wrapping them and putting them back on the smoker just so that way they can cook together for a little bit as well. And so now the final step before we wrap it and put it back on the smoker is we're going to spoon some of that good sweet sauce on top of the ribs so that way the top of them get just as much barbecue flavor as the bottom that are going to be soaked in the sauce. And this is what they look like. And then we would just wrap these in foil, the top of this pan in foil, put it back on the smoker for 30 minutes. And now we're time to prep the sandwich. So again, this have been on the smoker again for another 30 minutes. We're going to take them out, get them on the cutting board, and basically we're going to split the rack of ribs into quarters. So we're going to cut it in half and cut each half in half and make it into a quarter. So that way each sandwich has basically a quarter rack of ribs on it. Again, the bones have been taken out, so it's real easy here. So to just split it all up. And then we can start to build the sandwich. You get your bun down. You're going to take a quarter of that rack of rib. You're going to lay it down across that bun. Some people like to toast theirs. We didn't toast ours in our video. We just like to keep the bread soft to help absorb some of that barbecue sauce. We'll put another spooning of that sauce over top of the meat before we go on to the next phase. And so next up, we're going to add some fresh cut onions. We used a sweet onion for this part, so we're going to add that. Then you're going to add some pickles on top, your favorite pickles. A friend of mine actually, to me, makes the best pickles in the world. So we're almost out of his pickles. We have a mixture of his pickles and some store-bought pickles for these sandwiches. But would have preferred to have only Mike's pickles. But we do that. And then once we get the pickles on, we're going to add another layer of sauce on top of that. Again, just layering the flavors. That's always a theme of my smoking and my cooking, is layering flavors. So do that, and then there you have it, the complete McRib sandwich, Mike D's barbecue style. My family destroyed these sandwiches, and so they were definitely a hit. And so hope you continue to watch the Mike D's barbecue videos and learn how to use our products to make some amazing food.